Hi Village School, I'm Allison.
And I'm Sarah.
Today we want to share some information about a wonderful book.
We have chosen to talk about the book The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick.
The Invention of Hugo Cabret is a historical fiction novel set in Paris, France in 1931. This book won the Caldecott Medal in 2008. The author incorporates many great illustrations to help tell the story.
This book is about the adventure of a 12-year-old boy named Hugo Cabret and his goal to fix a mechanical man called an automaton in order to get an important message from his dead father.
At the beginning of this book, Hugo is living with his Uncle Claude in the room within the walls of a busy train station in Paris. Hugo's Uncle Claude became his only living relative after his father died.
Hugo became Uncle Claude's apprentice and was taught how to take care of all 27 clocks in the train station. Here, nights passed, and Hugo thought Uncle Claude would not return, so he decided to leave the train station one night.
As Hugo walked through the freezing streets of Paris, he stopped in front of the museum that burned down. He saw a broken mechanical man, which he knew was an automaton. He picked up the heavy broken automaton and carried it back into his room in the train station.
While Hugo was in his room, he heard something say, "Fix it." From that point forward, Hugo was very excited about fixing the automaton. Hugo believes that if he fixes the automaton, he will receive his father's important message. Before he died, Hugo's father gave him a special notebook with drawings of an automaton for his birthday. These drawings explained how to build an automaton.
One of the problems Hugo faces is trying to find all the missing parts for the automaton without being noticed. He doesn't want anyone to discover that he lives alone, but must make sure he keeps all the clocks in the train station running accurately.
He steals toy parts from Georges Méliès' toy booth in the train station in order to fix the automaton. When Georges Méliès catches Hugo stealing from him, he physically threatens him. Hugo's special notebook is taken from him by Georges, who told Hugo he will burn the notebook when he gets home.
Hugo tries to fix part of the automaton without the guide until he can figure out how to get his notebook back. One night, Hugo follows Georges to his ivy-covered apartment building to persuade him to give him his notebook back. Georges refuses to return Hugo's notebook and walks into his apartment and closes the door, leaving Hugo outside in the freezing cold. Hugo picked up a rock, aimed it at a window, and threw it.
A girl looked out the window and saw Hugo. She signaled Hugo to wait there and she would come right down. Isabel ran from her apartment and met Hugo outside. She promised Hugo she would not let her grandfather, Papa Georges, to burn his notebook. Isabel and Hugo became great friends, and their relationship has several ups and downs.
Hugo, together with Isabel, the French Etienne, and ATS teacher, make an amazing discovery about Papa Georges.
Hugo is confident and hopeful. He is strong and brave. And even though Hugo steals, he really doesn't like to and is not a bad person. Hugo is responsible and smart. He is a quick thinker and very careful about his actions. Hugo wants to be a magician.
Isabel is a tough, brave, and sneaky girl who lives with her godparents. Isabel loves to read books. She is a very friendly girl.
Etienne Pouchon is a boy who is friends with Isabel. He works at a movie theater and sneaks kids in the theater to see movies for free. Etienne wears an eye patch because of a terrible accident that happened when a Portuguese rocket flew into his eye while he was playing with fireworks. Etienne is responsible and helpful with a discovery.
There are several other characters, including Isabel's godmother, Mama Jean, René Tabard, Monsieur Lebie, the station inspector, Madame Emily, Monsieur Frick, and Madame Mourier.
Now I will read a short section of the book which includes a few illustrations that help tell the story. In this section, Hugo is being chased through the train station by the station inspector and some policemen.
Hugo was left by himself for a long time. He was going to be put in prison now, or an orphanage. He was sure of it. The mechanical man would be thrown away, and he would never see Isabel or her godparents again. He covered his eyes with his hands. Finally, the door to the office opened, and in came the station inspector with 2 policemen. Hugo stood up and tried to back himself farther into the corner of the tiny cage. "He won't talk?" said one of the policemen. "Nothing," said the station inspector. "Well, maybe a ride to the police station will help out a little. Come on, boy, your limousine is waiting." The station inspector opened the cage, and Hugo saw his opportunity. Once again, he made a dash for it. He slipped between the police officers and ran back into the station. It was crowded today, and Hugo bounced from person to person as they shuffled through the station. By the time he came into a clearing, he had lost sense of direction. He turned and saw the station inspector coming closer with 2 policemen right behind him.
He thought he saw Madame Emily and Monsieur Frick closing in quickly, too. He kept running and was knocked over by some travelers rushing to catch their train. He landed on his hand and screamed in pain. He managed to get back up. Then, with tears blurring his vision, he desperately tried to reach for the front doors of the station, but stumbled and ran in the exactly wrong direction. He tripped and fell several feet down onto the tracks. He looked up into the face of a train barreling into the station. From somewhere behind him, he thought he heard a scream. A horrible sound of brakes being pulled, coupled with metallic screech of the wheels against the rails, made it seem like the whole station was about to collapse around him. The black engine was zooming right toward Hugo, and he was caught, unable to look away, as though he were watching a movie.
I highly recommend this book to anyone who likes an amazing adventure and a fascinating discovery.
It is a well-written book with 26,159 words and 158 extraordinary illustrations that will inspire you to share it with your friends.
Here's another interesting fact. The author is the uncle of one of our 3rd graders.
This is Sarah signing off.
And Allison.
Happy reading.